All righty. What's up, everybody? Happy April. Happy Thursday. I went to work today, but it's okay. I'm here. Thank you for getting on the call tonight. We have a very, very special guest, one of my besties. I love her so much. We have Dr. Stephanie Burgos on our team call tonight. And I'm really excited to have her on because obviously she has such a heart and passion for this business. She constantly keeps me in check. I don't know what I would do without her. She constantly, whenever I'm like off my pace, I just talk to her in one conversation. I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do. I need to get back on it. And so it's really nice to have a success partner and someone that I confide in, and such a great friend. She has been able to do some amazing things with this business. She leads with integrity, with heart, with passion, and just so much truth in what she does and how she feels adamant about this company, this business, and just her drive and determination to help other people is, unfounded. So without further ado, Stephanie, I will let you take it away and let's school my team here. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. All right, guys. So I always like to start even my calls. Thank you so much for coming on tonight and coming on and listening to me. I know that if you're busy like me, your time is of value to you. And so big kudos to you to coming on and coming into this community, because as Nina knows, as Neff knows, this business can be really isolating. And if you're not connecting with your team through these types of resources like team calls, you're going to get discouraged. You're going to feel like you're alone. It's inevitable. So just kind of putting the plug in there for this, thank you for coming on, and for any future calls, super important that you make them, you make them a priority. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And so let's see. Actually, I'm going to share this. All right. Can you guys see my presentation? Excellent. And you guys still see my presentation? Excellent. All right. So today what I'm going to talk to you about is something that I think is so incredibly important to your business, in life, honestly, but especially specifically to your business. And that is your mindset. I want you guys, it's still early in the year, even though it's April, put what's happened in the past behind you. It's about moving forward. It's about, looking ahead, setting goals for yourself, and making sure that you are equipping yourself with the correct mindset that you need to succeed. So what I want to do first is introduce myself, talk a little bit about my journey, how I became a coach, and then I'm going to go and give you my 4 tips that I have in terms of that I feel are necessary that, for your mindset. So this is me in the middle. This was me in July of 2013, and I was overweight. I was feeling really sluggish. I was fatigued. I was, starting to feel, really depressed about myself and just how I looked. And I was also in the middle of probably the busiest time of my life. I was, I just finished my residency not too long ago in July of 2013. And so this was smack in the middle of my residency at Harvard, working, 60, 70 hours a week, having no time for myself. And I had reached a point where enough was enough. You could see in the top right corner of the photo as a picture of me as a child. I've always battled my weight. I have gone up and down. I was overweight in grade school. I was overweight in high school. I was overweight in college. I would get it off for a little bit, but my heaviest was in college when I was almost 200 pounds. And that was definitely a low. If you've seen my video by corporate, I talked about that. I spoke about that. But this period that you're kind of looking at is just kind of, where I was just starting to climb up, and I kind of had these like horrible thoughts of like, I don't want to go back. I don't know if you've had those thoughts before, where like you've lost all this weight and then all of a sudden you're starting to gain weight again, and you're like remembering those horrible thoughts of like when you were at your heaviest weight, and you're like, I don't want to go back to that. And so I needed a solution that was quick and effective. I needed something that I could do on my time. I was that girl that I've always exercised, actually. I've always made time to exercise. I would work out for 40 minutes, an hour at the gym, doing cardio on the elliptical, the endless cardio, going for walks, going for jogs. And the only, I was working out because that was my stress reliever. What I wasn't doing was really honing in on my nutrition. And so finally I was like, all right, I'm going to get a program. I'm going to commit to it. And so at the time, T25 had just come across, my profile on Facebook. I had heard about it, and I had heard about Shakeology through watching Insanity infomercials, and I had tried Insanity, and it was like soul crushing. Mind you, I was like someone that loved to work out, and I thought I was in shape until you do Insanity, and you're like, wow, I'm not in shape. And it was just soul crushing for me. And so I was like, all right, I got it. I'm going to commit to this program. I'm going to, go all in. And it so happened that my coach, or the girl who introduced me to this opportunity, was like, you should become a coach. And I was like, done. I was like, that's it. I was like, I'm in. I was that girl that, and this is one thing I want to kind of point out, guys, especially if you're someone that you are nervous to talk to people about this opportunity. You're nervous about coming across a certain way. You think because someone makes a certain amount of money that they're not going to be interested in this. I was literally that person that was like thinking about it. And all I needed was one person to say, hey, I think you should do this. And I was like, oh my God, God is talking to me. Like, I need to do this. He's talking to me. So imagine someone had not come up to me. I was thinking about it. I needed that confirmation of someone else telling me that they believed in me to do it. And I was an easy sell. I was an easy kind of bring into this opportunity. And so the starting point of all achievement is desire. And so I desired a healthier weight. I desired to be stronger. And I have this kind of picture of me in the bottom right, which is my graduation of medical school. Again, just talking about desire and the idea that, guys, I had always wanted to go to medical school, and I had that desire from when I was a child, sticking to that. And how was I able to stick to that? And I'll speak to that kind of when I talk about kind of my 4 points for success in terms of mindset. And so I put together this collage. This collage really embodies to me what Beachbody has done for me. And so in the top half, you see Luke. Luke's my boyfriend of 8 years. And he started with me. He started with, he did Insanity. He was someone that but he was borderline had high blood pressure. And I remember, I told him, I said, look, I'm about to get on this journey. I'm going to do this. You're almost about to go on medications. I don't want you to go on medications. I want you to get serious about your health. And he was open to it. And so with Insanity, he did Insanity, and he actually dropped 20 points in his blood pressure. And I was like, wow, this works. And, and at the end of the day, what was the secret? The secret was exercise. It was exercise. It was watching what you eat. That's it. That was the secret. It was nothing more, nothing less. At the time when we did Insanity, we had not tried Shakeology yet. And so it was just straight, just using the program, using the nutrition guide. And I said, I could get behind something like this, because as a physician, I'm very much against pills. I'm very much against wraps. I'm very much against programs that require drinking all these shakes. Why? Because that's not sustainable. I'm all about creating a healthy foundation that's sustainable. And so in the bottom is my transformation with T25. I love that program. I am a short workout person. It's like me now. I love 22-minute hardcore. I'm doing 22-minute hardcore, and I absolutely love it. And so any of the longer programs, I get really bored. And so, I love T25. I love Insanity Max 30. I love, all of the shorter programs. And so I had an amazing transformation with it. I absolutely adored it. And I was a 100% believer in the products. And the reason why I have in the bottom right, I wanted, those are 2 girls on my team. And guys, I've built this business entirely on social media. I've met Nina, through this business. I didn't know Nina before this business, and she's become one of my closest friends. Same thing with Neff. Like, as couples, we've become such great couple friends. Like, we didn't know each other. And so one of the most golden things about this opportunity are just the friendships, are just the lives that you're touching, the community that you're creating for yourself. I'll even give an example. This past week, I had a really tough week. I had a great high on Saturday with corporate, showing my video, but then I had that emotional roller coaster of being an entrepreneur. I had a tough week. And if it wasn't for my friends, my support network, these girls on my team, Nina, people that I can talk to, people who love and support me, that they were strangers, not, more than, 2.5, 3 years ago. It was incredible, that love that I felt, and just that support. And to me, that's something that's priceless, that you cannot place any type of value on. And so when you look at these girls, these are girls, Sophie, the African-American young woman, I met her on Instagram. Ashley in the middle, I met her on Facebook. And just women who have become my closest friends. And then I have pictures of my travels, because one one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this opportunity is that immediately when I signed up, I created a vision for myself. I knew that I, as a physician, I could make money, I'm going to make good money as a physician. But what was it that I could accomplish with this opportunity that I could not accomplish with being a physician? And that is freedom of my time and the ability to travel the world and still make money while traveling. And that's what I really want you guys to understand. So there's a picture of me that in August of last year, I took an around the world trip. There's a picture of me in China, on the Great Wall of China. That picture of the elephants on the top right, I took that picture in the Serengeti in Africa. And guess what? I went back to the hotel and I worked my business. It didn't mean that I couldn't work my business. I was able to work my business in China, able to work my business in Africa, in Turkey, in Russia, all the places that I went. That to me is of immense value to me. I cannot accomplish that and have that type of freedom with having to go into work physically, several times throughout the month. So think about that. At the end of the day, we all have different reasons as to why we want this business to work. And I put a picture of me smiling because honestly, guys, when I graduated medical school, I kind of was like, now what? I do consider myself an overachiever. I know that. I love challenges. I love to be driven by something. I am someone, if you're not constantly being challenged, then you're not growing, you're staying stagnant. And so for me, when I graduated medical school, I didn't know what was next for me. And I didn't know what my passion was. I didn't know what was going to be, kind of where my life was going. I knew medicine, but I was just like, is this it? Like, I want more. And it wasn't until this came into my life, until Beachbody came into my life, that literally a fire lit in me. I had never experienced anything like that. Imagine, being able to stay up till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning out of pure excitement, being able to wake up, staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning, waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning because you're so excited, so much to do, so much to learn. Mind you, look at how I look at those things. Some people will say, oh, that's so overwhelming. I look at it with excitement because I'm not going to look at it as overwhelming. I'm going to look at it as like, great, there's lots to learn. I guess this is like job security. Like, there's lots to learn that I got to do. And that's the way that I look at it. And so thinking about how you look at those types of things, when you see a mountain ahead of you, are you like, whoa, I'm not going to be able to do that? Or if you're like, okay, I'm going to do this one piece at a time, one step at a time. I'm going to climb this one little bit at a time. And so that's the difference. When you see people who are really successful, their mindset of how they look at that mountain ahead of them that they need to climb, because we all need to climb a mountain. We all need to climb, towards success, which is like at the peak. And so to change your life, you have to change yourself. And to change yourself, you have to change your mindset. So my personal mantra is life begins one step out of your comfort zone. And so I want to challenge all of you to have a mantra that you live by, that challenges you, that you kind of put up on your refrigerator, that you kind of have posted at work, in your cubicle, wherever you work, that you can look at, and it's going to really make you think and really, make you uncomfortable. And you're just like, oh, that's going to make me uncomfortable. But just have something that you live by and that you stand by, because that is so incredibly important. So number one for me in terms of mindset would be leaving your ego at the door. This is so incredibly important, guys. You must become a student again. I was a physician. I went to 12 years of education and training. I looked at this opportunity. I didn't come into this opportunity and was like, got it. I just spent 12 years of my life on on education. I've interacted with all these different personalities. I'm going to kill it at this because I've accomplished this. I have this XYZ credentials. No, I didn't come in like that. I knew that this was a whole other beast, that this was a whole new world. And I needed to be a student again. I needed to start at the bottom. And so think about like, if you're an actor studies all his life to be an actor, and he practices that, and he spends all his hours, he wins an incredible award for it. And then he tries to become a singer and he flops. What made him think that he could just cross over into a whole different industry and be successful? That was naive on his part. And I think a lot of coaches come in, especially if you are educated, especially if you have a lot of experience in other avenues, you come in thinking you can easily understand this. And this is a different type of business. This is a unique business. It's network marketing. It is an incredibly unique business that requires a certain set of skills that you can learn, but nonetheless, it's a set of skills that many of us don't have, kind of coming into this. So think about that. Have you been coachable? At the end of the day, you have an incredible leader. Nina knows a lot, and she has an incredible background in design, in social media. Have you been willing to be coachable? She is going to be your leader. She's going to know what you need to do in order to be successful. If you're being stubborn, you're not going to be successful. If you're not listening to the things that she's saying, you're not going to be successful. At the end of the day, she's not telling you these things because she wants to and because she's setting you up to fail. She's telling you these things because she knows that it works. She's gone through it. She's gone through the things that she knows you should not be doing. And so really asking yourself, have you been coachable? Or have you been stubborn? Have you let your ego hold you and not allow yourself to learn? Because that is incredibly important. It's going to hurt you if you're not leaving your ego at the door. Another thing is being willing to fail forward. Guys, I fail all the freaking time. I went to a conference not too long ago, a couple months ago. I've been in this business almost 3 years, and I just sat there and I was like, holy crap. Like he was just telling me things and I was like, I've just been doing all of this wrong. Like, I've just been looking at this the wrong way. I've been talking to people the wrong way. I've been leading people the wrong way. It's constant failure after failure. But guess what? I'm still here. I'm still standing up. I'm still trying, and I'm still working towards my goals. And I look at my failures and I say, okay, I need to adjust this and let's keep it moving, right? It's not, it's not you are a failure. It's just this action that you did not work out. So guess what? Readjust and keep it moving forward. It's not, get off the train, if you're on a train to success, it's not about, getting off the train and landing in the river and going down the river and like going over the waterfall and you're like completely off track from where you started. It's about just stopping, readjusting, doing some personal development maybe so that you can get your mind right, and then getting back on track, because you're going to fail. And guess what? As you rise in your leadership, as you rise with a bigger team, you're going to come across more obstacles and you're going to fail even more. And so if you're not prepared for that mentally, like the other day, I told my coaches, like, look, what's going to happen when you have 20 coaches on your team and nobody's doing anything? And what's going to happen when you get to diamond and you drop? When you get to 1-star diamond and you drop? Because you know what? It's inevitable. It's going to happen. So what are you going to do when that happens? Are you going to stop and you're going to cry and you're not going to do anything? Or are you going to say, okay, this is my business. It's time to get back up. It's time to readjust, and it's time to get moving forward. Because you're the person that's in charge of your business, not your upline, not someone else, not the people you bring on. It's you. And so realize that and take ownership of that. And then being transparent and sharing you. Guys, people are not buying us for they're not buying into us for 21-day fix and 22-minute hardcore or PIO. They're coming to us because of us. So if you're not sharing who you are, how are they going to relate to you? If you're so scared to share your struggles, how are they going to relate to you? There is a tribe out there for you, but if you're not sharing you, how are they going to find you? And I struggle with this on my team, where coaches are really nervous and afraid to share their history. Obviously, I'm not saying, share it all at once. It's not about that. It's about breadcrumbing, sharing it in pieces. But the idea is that what I love about this business is that this is where your past struggles become unique factors about you. They become unique factors that allow you to relate to people. And this is where, and people have been through some rad stuff, like, everything from sexual abuse, divorce, suicide, or contemplating suicide. Like, I have all of that on my team. And so just, and I'm sure Nina has a lot of that on her team. And just like we all have all of that on our team. And guess what? Because there are millions of other people who feel that way. But if you think you're the only one that feels that way and you're not willing to share that, like you're doing a disservice to that person out there who could maybe relate to your story and could find strength in you being able to overcome some of that and move forward. Even if you haven't completely overcome it, trust me, you're probably further along than someone who's out there deep in their hole. And so think about that. Think about how you have gone through your struggles, you've gone through your experiences, and you may think you have nothing to add or nothing to give, but trust me, you do. You have that experience to share and to enlighten someone else's life. You need to do your reps, guys. 10,000, it takes 10,000 reps before you master something. 10,000 times. I have coaches, they reach out, they speak to 5 people, they get 5 no's and they quit. And I'm just like, you haven't done any, I'm like, I don't, what do you mean you quit? Like, you haven't done anything. You haven't, or they post a post and like 2 likes and they just feel like they're horrible at this business. I'm like, whoa, like you haven't, until you have like thousands and thousands of people on your page and you post something and you get 0, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear you talk about quitting. You have to do your reps. Guys, it's about doing the hard, unglamorous work behind the scenes, right? That's what this is about. It's about the unseen steadfastness. You see someone like myself with success, you see other coaches with success, you don't see how much they're working. You don't see how hard they're working. You don't see how they're staying consistent every single day. Your 3 vital, well, now it's the 4, I have to change this. Now we have 4 vital behaviors. 4 vital behaviors, those are our reps every single day. I have hit Success Club for 37 months in a row. Every single day, I have not missed my vital behaviors. Every single day. Doesn't matter if I'm on vacation. It doesn't matter if I'm working 15 hours a week, 15 hours a day. It doesn't matter if my grandmother's in the hospital. It doesn't matter if my parents are going through a divorce. What matters is that I show up every single day. This is my business, no one else's business. Are you showing up every single day? Because if you're not, you're doing something wrong and you're not going to see success in your business. You have to show up every single day. And guys, this is so important for me to understand, for you to understand, because it's the simple things that our business is incredibly simple. It's incredibly simple to do, but yet sometimes it's the simple things that are the hard things, right? It's the simple things that are the hard things to do every single day. So it's very important that you discipline yourself to do these behaviors. And then it's the idea behind delayed gratification, right? People ask me all the time, Stephanie, you're doing so well, and you're doing so well in network marketing, and you're doing whatever you're doing in this business, you're doing really well. Okay, would you went through 12 years of medicine, would you go through it, all over again? And hands down, I say yes. All the time I say yes, because medicine taught me the concept of delayed gratification. It taught me that I needed to go. I worked 12 years for practically nothing, with no guarantee that I was going to see the success that I had, except my own belief that I was going to accomplish that. And I did it, for 12 years, and I went $300,000 into debt. That was my investment into myself and into my future. And I only with the belief that, hey, this will eventually work out. And I take that same mindset with me, with being an entrepreneur. Like at the end of the day, that's the type of mindset. You have to be willing to put in a lot of work in the beginning for a very little return. And that's just the facts. That is the facts. And eventually that compound effect, it will pay off if you stick with it. And as long as you're enjoying the journey, as long as I've always enjoyed this journey, I've been getting in great shape. My job is to work out and to post inspirational things. Like I would do that for free. And so you have to think about those things. Think about, is your mind in the right place so that you can have success? And are you thinking about this as delayed gratification, or are you wanting it now? Because if you're wanting it now, you're going to have trouble, right? Because it's hard. You're not going to see the success right now. It's going to be a compound effect of small accomplishments and throughout time. Discipline. I love discipline, right? Because we all, we have to practice discipline in our life. Discipline is the ability to control one's impulses, desires, and behavior, your emotions as well. It's being able to turn down immediate pleasure and instant gratification in favor of gaining long-term satisfaction and fulfillment from achieving higher and more meaningful goals. To possess it is to be able to make the decisions, take the actions, and execute your game plan regardless of the obstacles, discomfort, or difficulties that may come your way. I loved that definition of discipline, because that is discipline. It is the bridge between what you set as your goals and you actually achieving those goals. It's doing the things every single day, doing what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, when we don't want to do it. And it's just making that commitment to yourself. One thing that I always ask I ask my coaches, and I talk to Luke about a lot, is just like, are you led by fear, or are you led by your why in your work? A lot of people go to work because they have to. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to, there's a fear aspect there. They wake up at the crack of dawn and they break their back working all these hours for someone else, for someone else's dream, for someone else's goals. And it's because they don't want to lose their job. So it's like, there's a fear factor. But for me, for this business, when you are in business for yourself, you're driven by your why. You're driven by your passion, and that's what drives me. And that's how I prefer to be living my life and working towards something that feeds into my why and my passions. And so that brings me to my last thing, which I think is so incredibly, incredibly important, guys. You need to understand your mission for yourself and your business, and you need to have the vision for yourself and your business. And so I want you to ask yourself, what speaks to your heart, right? I have girls on my team that want to do mission work, and I say, great, let's do mission work. But however, you need financial stability in order for you to go and spread the word of God the way that you want to be able to go take away, go to Africa and do this mission work. I'm like, you need some financial stability in your life. So use Beachbody, use your ability to help others, get fit and healthy, and use that as a vessel to accomplish those goals so that you free yourself, so that then you can go and pursue really what's in your heart. And so asking yourself, what speaks to your heart? Asking yourself that if you were 90 years old and you were so happy and you're kind of looking back on your life, looking back at all you've achieved, all the relationships you've developed, what would matter most to you? List those things out. What would matter most to you? And if you could get a message across to a large group of people, who would those people be? What would your message be? To me, when I started, that was incredibly appealing to me about this business, that I could create a platform for myself where I could have thousands of people who come to my page, who are inspired by my page, who all of a sudden I have a voice now. I have a voice now that reaches far beyond my emergency department. So that's something that's, and so that was really appealing to me. And I treated my page like that from the very beginning. Look at your page and think, what if I had 100,000 people every day waking up just to see what I posted? What would I post? What would I want my page to represent? What do I want to be known as? What do I want to represent? And then giving your talents, passions, and values, how could you use these resources to serve, to help, to contribute to people, beings, causes, whatever it is that you want to accomplish and whoever you want to serve in your life. And so for me as a physician, as an ER doctor, I react to disease. I treat heart attacks and strokes, and I see all the complications of what happens when someone doesn't take care of themselves. And so to me, ending the trend of obesity, which is the mission of our Beachbody, is actually the mission of Beachbody, actually aligned a lot with my mission, my personal mission. And I put here a map, and you can see this map. This is actually back in 2012, which is actually pretty scary in itself. But all those red, all the red are states where greater than 30% of the people are considered obese. That is a huge, horrible statistic. And this was back in 2012. And so I know that those orange states are probably red now, and those yellow states are probably orange now, and it's probably gotten a lot worse. And then childhood obesity, 1/3 of children in our country are overweight or obese. That's a problem, guys. That's a huge, huge problem that's going to have a lot of consequences health-wise. And so, can you guys hear me? Let me see.
Right. Uh-oh. Now I can't hear. Oh no, can you guys hear me? Thumbs up. All right. All right, hold on. We're gonna allow Stephanie. Oh no. Okay, so we're gonna wait for her to get back on. She was in the zone though. I was like, yes, take me to church.
Can you see me?
Yeah, you're back.
All right, I'm back. I got to get back into my zone.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I was like, she was in the zone right now.
It's okay.
It's like
I haven't
H's
I haven't fully gotten into it either yet. So so yeah, exactly, guys. So what I was trying to say is that childhood obesity, right? So childhood obesity, 1/3 of children are basically overweight or obese in our country. And that is a very scary statistic that I really want you to kind of really think about. And one of the Surgeon Generals, a couple years ago, said actually that our generation of children right now are the first generation that are not going to live longer than their parents. That is a very scary statistic. And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it in my emergency department when I see younger people who are coming in with heart attacks, with, just kind of all of these complex medical problems, diabetes, super high blood pressure that can cause strokes, that can cause heart attacks. It's a real problem. And so I have this picture here, because not only for me is this what we do as coaches so important because it prevents disease, but really, guys, I want you to think about the deeper part. I want you to think about, for me, when I know that the statistics are showing that by 2050, 50% of the US population is going to be overweight or obese, that entirely terrifies me, because I know that with obesity and with people being overweight, that comes with a lot of people being depressed, a lot of people being anxious, having anxiety, having a lot of problems, being trapped in their minds. And that, to me, means that we're going to have 50% of our population that is almost unproductive in their life. And I say that, and to me, that is incredibly, incredibly powerful. That is an incredibly it's horrible to think about that. Because I see people, and I talk to them, my coaches, I see people who are struggling with depression, who are struggling with anxiety. It traps them. It traps them from being able to live out their gifts that they've been given, their unique talents that have been given to them by God. So think about that. Think about that. Because if you're only looking at this at face value, if you're only looking at this as challenge packs and as Shakeology, you're missing the entire point of this. And so you can see that I have a mission and I have a vision for my business that is outside of challenge packs and outside of Shakeology. It's so much more than that. And we need so many more people doing what we're doing, because this is something that has to start at the community level. You can't expect the government to fix this. You can't expect the school system to fix this. It needs to come from people like you and me, who are inspiring people by our actions, by our habits, and helping people one person at a time. Guys, people are out there alone, and they're trapped in their mind, okay? They literally are trapped in their mind. I want you to think about that. So if you've been kind of worried about presenting this and worried about how you're going to come across, realize that you are keeping someone else's destiny trapped in your mouth. You're keeping this opportunity trapped in your mouth from somebody else who could benefit from just the positive, supportive community that we have to offer. Think of how Beachbody has changed your life emotionally. Think of how personal development has changed your life emotionally. It is incredibly powerful. And so when you're scared and you're not going out and you're not inviting people, I want you to think about these pictures. I want you to think about people in the emergency department who are anxious and they want to commit suicide, and they're sitting at home crying, and they're just kind of existing. They're existing in life. They're not living life. They're existing. And so, and if you've been there, if you've been in this type of place, and Beachbody has helped you, it's like you are doing people an injustice by not sharing that. By not sharing that part of your journey, because there are people out there a lot of people, I just told you, almost, more than probably close to 40% of the population is overweight and obese. And I guarantee you what comes with that a lot is depression and anxiety. So if you're depressed and if you're anxious, trust me, there are a lot of people out there who are just like you, who could benefit from your story, who could benefit from you coming to them and saying, you know what, I know what you're going through. You're not alone. I know. And so that's where you're going to be powerful, and you're going to be powerful in your ability to be able to serve others and to help others with your story. And so really thinking about, guys, if you've captured a mission for you that ties Beachbody to a mission that serves your heart. I find that what separates the successful coaches from the coaches that are not successful is that the successful coaches have made that connection. They've made that connection. They've found how Beachbody can be a vessel to help them accomplish something that really means something to them. At the end of the day, I'm not telling you to be a Beachbody champion, because that's not what I am. I'm not a Beachbody champion. I'm Stephanie Burgos, and my team is Team Healthier You. Like, I am here to serve others. I'm here to build people's confidence. I'm here to battle depression. I'm here to battle anxiety. I'm here to, I want women to feel beautiful and to feel confident in their skin. That is who I am. That is what I represent. And so when I don't represent just, our products. So really thinking about that, thinking about, have you made that link? And so when you see these girls on here, Ashley here, she's someone, when I found her on Instagram, on Facebook, she was an alcoholic and she was depressed, and she was, she didn't know where, she didn't graduate from school, and, and she was just like really unhappy in her life. And, this business has completely transformed her life. And Sophie here, Sophie's story is incredibly powerful if you haven't heard it. And she is someone who I found on Instagram who was borderline suicidal, who was when I found her, she was looking for ways on how to take her life. Like, she was a newly single mom, and now she is my most successful coach, earning, $6,000 a month. And she, going from someone who was working 3 jobs when she started this business with me, she was working 3 jobs as a single mom. And she was barely making $2,000 a month. And this opportunity has blessed her life incredibly. Why? Because she latched onto it, because she knew this was going to help her. She believed in the mission, she believed in the opportunity, and she latched onto it for dear life. And she worked her business every single day. And now she's seen the blessings of that, with, the financial blessings of that. It has not only incredibly blessed herself emotionally, physically. She's been in the 21-Day Fix infomercial. She's won the, monetary prize from Beachbody, but just how it's changed her life, it's incredible. And so it's, and then you have Catherine here. Catherine here was just graduated from college, or actually I found her when she was a college student, unsure what she wanted to do. Her parents wanted her to go one way. She didn't feel incredibly, really, that wasn't really what was speaking to her heart. And she's one of my other most successful coaches now, really kind of taking life by storm. She's 23 years old and she's doing, she's doing phenomenal. And her life ahead it's going to be so much, like, just so incredible, so full of so much joy, so much fun, so much travel, just the type of life that she wants to live. And then Mandy here, just Mandy Howell, she's just such a firecracker herself, and just how it's affected not only herself but her husband. Now her husband's on board. He's had an amazing transformation, and she's someone, she didn't have this huge transformation. She was like your skinny person. But she needed to be stronger. She needed to be fit, but she is finding ways to how this can really help her life. And it's brought her closer to her husband. Her and her husband now are building their business together as a family. And I'm so excited to see how their life kind of transforms. And these girls are are such close friends in my life now. I don't know, so just kind of thinking about that, like, if there's nothing, it's the friendships, it's the community, it's the support of people who want you to excel and are going to push you to excel, who are not going to let you just stay stagnant and just live a mediocre life. It's not about that. It's about excelling in your life and doing more. And so every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars and to change the world. And so if you, kind of really thinking about that, guys. And so there are only 2 mistakes one can make along the road to truth: not going all the way and not starting. And so I want you guys to ask yourself, have you started? Like, have you legit started? Or have you been like, I'll try this for a couple of days. I'll post once or twice, I'll see what bites. And trust me, that's not going to work. You either need to commit, or you need to or you need to say, this is not for me. You need to go all the way. It's like, I listened to a podcast recently, from Super Saturday. You guys, I hope all of you guys went to Super Saturday by Jimmy Hayes Nelson. And he says, he's like, if you are only 80% in and you're 20% out, you're still leaving yourself that out. You're not going to if you're not 100% committing, you're going to eventually take that 20%, you're eventually going to go out that back door. That 20% is like your back door. And most people, they're not jumping in 100%. I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick to this. I'm going to trust the system, and I'm going to trust that this is going to work out because I know I'm going to stay consistent. Then guys, that's the type of mindset. Those are the type of behaviors you need to have. So get out of your own way. And so if you're getting in your own way, which a lot of coaches are, you need to get out of your own way and ask yourself, do you really believe that you can be a successful entrepreneur? Because that is what this is. You are the CEO of your business. Do you really believe it? And if you do not, then you need to pick up some personal development, and you need to be delving into that like hours a day, you know, in your car, while you're doing laundry, while you're cooking, putting that on in the background so that it's there for you, so that you're constantly feeding your mind with positive, feeding your mind with things that are going to help build you and that are not going to break you down. Because if you're trying to accomplish something, trust me guys, you're trying to be the 2%, right? You're trying to be 2% of the population. That means 98% of the population, which is probably a lot of your friends and a lot of your family, are not going to understand what you're doing. So realizing that, and realizing that as leaders, what leaders mean, you're going to lead the way, right? Lead the way. It doesn't mean you're going to have a whole line of people with you. They're going to be behind you eventually, but you got to lead the way. And sometimes leading can be lonely. It really can, especially when you're just like, hello, I have all this energy and like everyone else behind me is like dead weight. So like, you know, you're trying, you're like running up that mountain, like you're just like, God damn, this is like really, really hard. And so you really have to realize that you're leaders. You're building yourself to be leaders. And are you doing that with your personal development? So making sure that you're doing the proper steps so that you guys can be successful. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope that motivated you. I hope that you found some value in that, in what I had to, you know, what I had to say, what I had to share. And I want to see if anyone has any questions for me, or I am an open book always. And no question is too stupid. It's what I tell my coaches all the time. I'm like, if you have no questions, that means you understand this business 100%. So you're better than me. And so, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions. And honestly, guys, make today the decision, you know, after this call, make a decision. Make a decision. Are you going to go all in, or are you going to go half-ass? And if you need to go all in, what happened in the past, happened in the past. That's it. It can't be changed. You can't go back in magic land and just kind of go back and change your decisions. You need to look forward, not look behind you. Look forward. So make that decision of how you're going to look at the next couple months, you know, up until Summit, if you're going to Summit, but at least up until the end of the year, make some some goals for yourself and work toward them. And guys, it's going to be ups and downs. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. But the journey, you know, when you reach success, when you're starting to feel it, it is so incredibly just amazing. That's all I have to say. It's just amazing, but it's hard work. It's incredibly hard work. So any comments, questions? I'm trying to see, but Nina.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Being obviously you're in the healthcare, you come across a lot of individuals that health-wise in itself, they already need help. Have you reached out to certain individuals, taking advantage of the fact that you're in that, you know, in that career path?
And do you mean like at work?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, at work, I do not prospect at work. So I don't take any clients from work or anything like that. I keep it very separate. So I keep my medical life and my coaching separate. So I do not, I promote myself. I am in healthcare. And so that's my avatar, right? That's my market, where I'm attracting other healthcare professionals, and I'm looking for other healthcare professionals that are busy in their life to help them get in shape. But personally, I don't take from clients. Now, people that I work with, they come to me. So other nurses and respiratory therapists and other people who see me and they follow me on social media, they'll come up to me at work and I'll talk to them. You know, if I'm not busy, I always say, message me, email me, and I don't have any problem with that. But when it comes to patients, I do not, I don't take any prospects, from patient care, from patients. Oh, wait, I can't hear you.
So, guys, 1 second, just one, please. Thank you. The reason why I asked was, I know that I shouldn't be mixing, obviously, work, with my business either. However, in my line of work, what I do is I do the physicals for when you apply for life insurance. So I'm that examiner. I'm the one that comes to you and I basically give your insurance company the information as far as if you're going to qualify or not.
Right.
So with that being said, like a lot of people coming to the office and we'll just start have a conversation and they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm looking to lose weight, or I'll take their blood pressure and all of a sudden it's a concern, or anything of that type of conversation that just comes up. However, I guess I don't ever throw out anything that has to do with Beachbody, just because I don't want to come off like, you know, oh, hey, you know, I don't know if I should try to speak about it or if I should just leave it alone.
Well, I guess that's a question you actually, I mean, that's a little tough because you'd have to find out if you're even allowed to do that. Like if you're allowed to, in a sense, like solicit from people that you're working with like that in that sort of fashion, you'd have to see if that's even feasible. Because I'm sure there might be rules against that you might not know.
I have a kind of a quick answer to that, Jennifer. One of the best ways to do that without getting in trouble is just to if you can make a friendly connection outside of that, like, oh, are you on Facebook or social media, and have the people follow you, then at that point, whatever they choose to do is outside of your work environment. You don't actually talk about the business. Just say, oh, well, maybe you need, you know, maybe we can connect outside of here. I'm interested in health too, and we can find something together. Because it's the same thing. Like if you're an instructor, you can't coach from your gym, but you can tell people to follow you. And then at that point, whatever they choose to do is on you. So I would say just make the friendly connections. We start with relationships, right? Isn't that what we do?
Right.
So that might be a way to do that, but that's a good question. Thank you. Anyone else have a question for Jennifer? I'm sorry. I'm looking at your name right now. I have a question, Stephanie, for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I probably know this already, but can you just talk a little bit about your progression as far as, you know, when you first joined, because you've been a coach for 3 years, right? So like at what point did you become Diamond? And then when did things start to pick up for you? When did your income change?
Okay, so for me, I started in July of 2013, like I said. And so I know that I'm kind of a little bit of an atypical story because I kind of jumped in, like all 100% jumped in. So I was not afraid of being transparent. I was not afraid. I was someone that I went from never posting on social media to all of a sudden like posting super consistently on social media. And so I didn't have that fear of how I was going to come across because I knew my intentions. I knew my intentions, right? I knew the value that I was going to be adding to someone else's life. So I didn't feel bad or about coming across as like, whoa, how come all of a sudden Stephanie is posting all the time? She never used to post, or now she's sharing this story and now she's sharing her journey. And so for me, I chronicled my journey from the very beginning. And I always invited through my posting. That's how I have built my business a lot, is just being very aggressive with inviting through my posting. So sharing my journey, sharing my workout. Hey, I just finished a quick 25-minute workout. I'm about to take a quick shower and head into work. So glad I was able to fit in a workout in 25 minutes. Or just with a picture like that. And then maybe another post I'll be working out and say, so excited about, starting my, just so excited that I'm getting amazing results, that my energy is increasing, that my clothes feel a little looser. I actually have a group starting, that I'm looking for some accountability partners. If you're interested, message me. So I was always very aggressive, posting very consistently. And so I started in my second month, I started seeing, in the beginning, I started seeing, kind of sales and some people coming up to me because they were like, what is it that you're doing? Like you're super busy and you're like making time to work out. And so through my posting, those were my first kind of potential customers, my warm market, like my profile. I posted on my personal page, and I had people from grade school who were contacting me who I had never heard from since grade school, since high school. Those were like my first customers, honestly, people who I had never heard from. And all of a sudden they were like, they were coming to me and they were just like, you seem to be doing something. And you mentioned you're starting a group. What is this about? And I would get to know them. So it took me 7 months to become Diamond. So my first two coaches were my mom and my boyfriend. and I became Emerald in the first week. I was like, you're going to sign up. What's your social security number? You're going to sign up. What's your social security number? You're my first 2 coaches and I'm Emerald. And then it took me though 6 months of working every single day. I've had like 1 or 2 coaches who've signed up and they like flopped on me, and it took me really a long time. And it wasn't until January that I found Sophie on Instagram, and she actually came to me and she was like, and actually when I talked to her, she said, Stephanie, I followed you for a while and you were really consistent. Like you were consistent, you were a person of color. I could relate to you, and I wanted to, and that's why I reached out to you. And so she had to see me, what they say is that, the vocal minority will derail you. The vocal minority will derail you, while there is a mountain, there is a huge tribe of silent watchers, guys. There are people who are silently watching you. So remember that. They're watching you. They're waiting to see if you fail. They're waiting to see if you are, if you're going to have progress. They're waiting to see if you are going to help other people. So if you're not sharing those things, if you're having all these conversations or even beginning to plant seeds, but then you're not posting on your social media and you're not sharing these things, you're not showing them the value, even if they said no to you. It's so incredibly important. And so it took me 7 months to find Sophie, and then Sophie was my first diamond, and it took her 6 months. So, roughly by by July of 2014, a year later, I was 1-star diamond, and it took me 1 year of consistent work to make $3,000 a month. That's what it took me to make that type of income, of consistent everyday work, of, showing up every single day to my business, showing up to my storefront, which is my social media, and committing. And guys, it has not been easy. This has been the hardest thing I have ever done. This is harder than medicine to me, because as you can see, like I'm an overachiever. I'm a very driven type A, like super like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'll work my ass off. I'll work, till I'm like dead asleep and like about to pass out. But with this business, I have to mentor other people. I have to learn other people's personalities. I have to realize that I can't make other people work this business. All I can do is lead. And that has been, as a leader, the type of leader I am, that has been so incredibly hard to go through and to work on that for myself, to have that patience and to realize it's that mentorship. It's about building that person from the inside out so that they can believe in themselves first. So it's going to take time. Not everyone is going to be like me and work this business the way that I am. And so to give you an idea, I have about 150 coaches that I've personally sponsored since I've been a coach, and maybe like 20 of them work this business. Out of 150 coaches, guys, that means I had 150 conversations with people. I poured into 150 people, and 20 people are still kind of like kicking it and like really trying to build it. I mean, other people are still on and they're inactive, or they're just like drinking their discount shakes. But like in terms of just builders or people who are genuinely trying, there's only like 20 of them, honestly. And so think about that, right? That's the fact. This is very much you have to kind of go through a lot of people to find those people that are going to build this and who are going to really work with you and believe in this. And so if you give up after the first person, you have to keep pushing through. You have to keep fighting. And like today, someone actually told me, who's now starting back up. She never quit coaching, but she was like, Stephanie, I was watching to see if you'd quit. I was watching to see if you would give up when everyone else was quitting on your team and people were just kind of falling off. And I was watching them fall off, but you never fell off. You just kept going. And she was like, and that was really incredibly inspiring. And, and realize, guys, that a lot of the first year to 2 years are really hard in this business if you're working it consistently. Now, if you're not working it consistently, it's like, it's still going to be hard, but it's just that you're like not going to see any traction. But if you're like working it consistently, it's still really hard. And it's not until, it's only when you start kind of having, deep into year 2 or like of that consistent work, and you have your builders and they're starting to flourish. So there's a lot of I call it momentum building, because that's what it is. It's like when you have a well and you're trying to like pump the water and you're like waiting for the water to come out, and you just keep pumping and pumping and pumping. Eventually that water is going to start flowing. And that's how this business is in a lot of ways. You're pumping for a long time. And then the water starts flowing. And everyone has different journeys, right? Everyone has different progressions. Everyone has different life circumstances that happen around them. But the key is that you cannot give up. You cannot give up. And some people have to first work on their mind. Some people have a lot of limiting beliefs. They have a lot of things that are stopping them from working this business. You know, my mom's a great example. You know, she became a coach when I became a coach, and she really needed to work through a lot of her minds, you know, just kind of a lot of personal development, a lot of just building herself from the inside out. And now she's starting to see progress. And mind you, she's been pretty consistent for the most part, but her mind wasn't fully in it because she still needed to work on herself, but she still showed up. And by showing up, she was learning little pieces. She was starting to create little habits for herself. I mean, my mom, you know, went from like no Instagram, no Facebook to like 7,000 friends on Instagram and like, you know, and a Facebook that she's created, but still 7,000 friends on Instagram. I'm like, holy crap. Like, you know, that's like amazing. And it's because she did, you know, the vitals. She always posted, you know, she did her best. And now she's of better mind where she can really, you know, she's seen much more success, and especially financial success. And I know that this year is going to be incredibly fulfilling for her because I see that journey. And it's like the same thing with my boyfriend. My boyfriend started with me, but he didn't really start working the business until 6 months in. And that was just like him starting to even think about it. Then it took him another 6 months, so almost a full year of me working the business by myself at home, you know, and it took him about a year before he was finally like, okay, let's really do this. I want to, you know. And so guys, that's just the reality. It's, you know, and so if you don't have your spouse, if you don't, you know, they're not supportive, you know what, it's okay. A lot of spouses are not initially supportive. You need to show them results. You need to show them that it works. You need to show them when they see those paychecks, they will believe you. And it's not until they see those paychecks, some of them will not believe you. And so that's the truth of the matter. There's nothing you can say, nothing you can do. But when you start showing them $200 paychecks, $1,000 paychecks, they're going to say, okay, like there's something here. And so, you know, and it's interesting. On my Super Saturday, they did a men's panel. And it was really incredibly insightful. It was great. I thought it was so great because it was the men's perspective. And they were just like, I didn't believe in this stuff. It was a pyramid scheme. Like, I didn't know what she was doing. She was like on the phone and I thought she was just playing on Facebook. And then they're like, but then she like, you know, then 2-3 years later, she's like doubling her income is now double my income. And like, he was like, people were like, then I knew there was something here. And it took the wife or whoever's involved, you know, to lead, you know, to show them. And that's just how it is. And realizing that if you are in that, and I speak to that because I think a lot of coaches struggle with their spouse, you know, believing in this business and getting involved. And I think it's realizing, and I see someone nodding their head, and it's true. It's just how it is. But it's also realizing, and I had to do this too, which is like, realizing that this is your dream first, right? This is your dream first. And so understanding that. And so realizing that you have to let them come into it in their own time and in their own way. And we can't force it because I was there. I was that person working 80 hours a week. My boyfriend's at home, not doing anything. And I come home and I work my business on the side. And I was like feeling bitter. I was feeling, you know, I don't know if you felt bitter, but I was just feeling, you know, upset about it. And I had to realize that this is my dream. I wanted to start this. He didn't want to start this. I wanted to start this. So it's a little unfair, and it takes that type of personal development, right? That type of reflection, that type of insight. So that then I'm like, okay, fine. You know, like I'm going to let him do him. I'm going to keep working my business. I'll make time for him, but he'll come around. And trust me, they come around. Oh, they come around. And they'll be your biggest supporters when you're like bringing in those paychecks and all of a sudden you're like, where were you when I was like building this? And now they want to come in and like help you. But that'll be a blessing. And it's just how it is. But yeah. So it took me, so this year I was, in 2015, I was an elite coach and I was 5-star diamond. And guys, even 5-star diamond, I've dropped. I'm, you know, at the moment I'm 3-star, you know, and so it happens. Like you can't let it knock you down, right? You just got to keep, you know, you got to keep building. And just, you know, rank is not tied to income. And so like, as long as you're building, as long as you're building consistently and you're showing up, you know, every single day to your business, this business will incredibly bless your life, not only emotionally and with friendships, but just financially. And if any of you are really driven by finances, you know, I will share, you know, and just kind of in full disclosure, as Beachbody says, you know, everybody's potential is like whatever they say, the disclosure. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Your own skill, intelligence, and all that stuff.
But between my boyfriend's account and then the beginning, I just wrote, but between my boyfriend's account and my account last year, we made $15,000 last month. $15,000 last month. That is incredible. That's incredible. That's only, you know, and so I was, you know, and I tell people that because I wanted to inspire you. I wanted to show you that if you stick to this, mind you, I didn't make that in the beginning. I was making $14 paychecks. You know, I was making
team volume, right, Stephanie?
I'm sorry?
Team volume. A lot of that is team volume.
Yes. So in the beginning, your paychecks are going to be all commission based. So like if I were to show you my check progression, it would show you, you know, $100, you know, all commission, $140, all commission, $400, all commission. And then probably around the periods when you start seeing bursts in income, it happens around New Year's Eve. So like, I'm always looking forward to that nice little burst in income around New Year's Eve. And then it kind of steadies out for a little bit. And then once you have a team under you, when you guys start going to Summit as a team, that's another time when you start seeing bursts in income it's because, you know, people are really excited and they have that fire. So events are incredibly powerful, guys. Events are so powerful, and not just Beachbody events, but just personal development events, you know, whether it's Tony Robbins, Danny Johnson, you know, just incredible, just anything that you can feed yourself. It will serve not only your business, it will serve you in your life, in your relationships, and how you believe in yourself, and the fire that you lead your life with. And so I usually see those types of, and so bursts. So now, for example, like last week, it was like $100 was my commission, and then $2,000 was my team, you know, my team bonus. And so it starts to shift, you know, as you're building your team and they're seeing success, you start seeing that shift. And that's the goal. We're not, you know, you don't want to be breaking your back 5 years from now, you know, selling, you know, hundreds of challenge packs to, you know, to make a 6-figure business. You want to build a team. And one other thing that I want to say in terms of building your team that I really want you guys to think about, and I think this is incredibly, incredibly humbling and super powerful, is that you will never recruit someone who is better than you. And so think about that. Think about that, guys. You will never recruit someone who's better than you. And so if you want to recruit that go-getter, that confident, that person who has her shit together, for lack of better terms, and she is going to stay consistent, guess who needs to be that? Guess who needs to grow into that? You need to be that. You need to do that. Trust me, if someone was sitting there, blah, 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 monotone, like, they're not going to attract me. They're not going to attract me. They're really not. If they're trying to attract someone like me on video or something, I need someone who's like, you know, who's more like me, who's going to drive me. And I'll share another thing with you guys. My upline, the person who sponsors me does not work this business at all. Doesn't even recognize me, doesn't even talk to me, she does not work this business. The person above her does not work that business. I didn't have training. I had I'm going to figure this shit out. That's what I had. And I'm going to do the things that I need to do. And I said, I was actually telling one of my coaches today, I was like, look, I always knew that the one vital behavior that was the most important was inviting. That was the most important. That's what was going to move my business forward. Not working out and not personal development is going to be inviting. And the reason why working out and being proof that the product works is so important is because we need you to believe in the product. Once you believe in that product and once you have your story, then you're gonna go out there and you're gonna want to share it. And personal development is to fix your mind. It's to get your mind right so that you have the belief and you start putting on that like heavy armor that you need to be an entrepreneur in this life, you know, in this time, you know, because at the end of the day, your friends and your family, they're not entrepreneurs. They're just, you know, hard workers, working their 9 to 5, working, you know, checking in, checking out. Like that's easy work. They're not doing the hard work. And so they're going to say like, what are you doing? Like, you're not, you know, you can't do this. What are you doing? And it's realizing that you're trying to be 2%. I'm telling you, you got to go to Danny Johnson. You got to go to a Danny Johnson conference, or you got to listen to her. Listen to her for free on DannyJohnson.com. Every morning she has a YouTube video. Like, she's going live. Like, she tells you that it is incredibly powerful to be the top 2%, guys. If you're trying to be a successful entrepreneur, you're trying to be 2%. So that means you need to surround yourself with other 2%ers. And anyone else who has that 98 mentality, you need to distance yourself. You need to distance yourself from them because they will drag you down. They will drag you down, and guess what? They're not going to know they're dragging you down, but they're going to keep you away from fulfilling your dreams and your goals. So you have to have that resilience and have that armor on you and fight for your dreams and fight for your goals, because there are people, everyday people, having a ton of success in this business. And we're only here in the United States and in Canada. We're going to go to the UK soon. We're going to go to Mexico soon. We're going to keep expanding. And people are not going to all of a sudden all become fit and not need us. Like, it's going to, you know, the problem is real. And there's people out there that are going to be attracted to you, right? Like, there's people out there that are going to be attracted to you and your story. And so, you know, the people who are attracted to Nina are different than the people who are attracted to me. And, you know, the people that are going to be attracted to, you know, to you, Jessica, or to you, Christina, or to you, Jennifer, or to all these other, you know, the people that are going to be attracted to you are going to be different than the people who are going to be attracted to me. And so realize that you're looking for your tribe. You're looking for those people. And so, and just really kind of think about that, you know, use that to fuel you and to drive you.
Damn. That's what's up.
This is what my team gets from me. And I honestly think I need to be harder on them. And I think it's true, guys, because honestly, like, Nina and I, we're trying to build you into business owners. That's what we're trying to do.
And we talk about you.
Self-sufficient business owners. Yeah. And guess what? Self-sufficient business owners figure it out. They show up. They're resourceful. They keep going. And that's just what it is. It's like, you have to get rid of the excuses and you just have to do the work. It's hard work. And we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And and so, like, you're not the only, if you feel like you're struggling, you're not the only one. We're all struggling. We're all trying to fit what we're doing into our lives. And I've seen successful coaches. I have a girl who's like she's like, I don't know, she's like 7 months pregnant. And I'm like seeing her crushing it on her social media, 4-star diamond now. I'm like, damn, hitting Success Club 50. I'm like, damn, I need to like step up my game. She's like 7 months pregnant, like, and it's just incredible. It's incredible to see when someone is driven and they stick to what they're doing and the success that they can have, you know, when they don't let life kind of stop them from reaching their goals. And so really think about, have you been doing that? Have you been letting other things get in your way? Have you not committed 100% to this? Have you not made this a priority in your life? Because you have to make this a priority. Because eventually you're going to be able to, eventually when you have that financial stability, you're going to have more time. You know, you're going to have that freedom. You're going to now, and it's going to be a different type of life. It's going to be a different type of life. But you got to work for it. You know, I think a lot of people want to not work for it. They want to do less and less and less for everything. And that's not how this works. You know, you got to work hard, and because you have to be tough. It has to toughen you. You have to be tough in order to lead a team, in order to be that leader. If you want that 6-figure income, that's going to be a team of people under you, people who are going to be where you are right now. Maybe some of you who are giving up, and what are you going to tell them? You know, you're going to tell them, I was there. I was there, and I had to get my mind right. I had to figure it out. I had to, and so that's why you have to go through these steps. You know, you have to crawl before you can walk, and you have to walk before you can run. You have to go through these steps. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
That's awesome. You guys fired up. I think you see why I love talking to Stephanie, because whenever I'm in the ish, she's like my PD, but like in real life form. So I talk to her and I'm like, Stephanie, I don't know what's going on. She's like, get your shit together. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Full speed ahead. No, thank you so much. I think she's incredible, guys. You know, and I think she's one of the people, you see why she has success. But think about that. Would it be worth working hard for 2 or 3 years to make $15,000 a month? Right? $15,000 a month. She's been in this business 3 years as a coach. 3 years after being in medical school and school for 12 years. I think that's an incredible testament to wanting to design her life the way that she sees fit. So, any last questions? I'll take one more question, and then we're going to wrap up. Anybody have a question? Speak now or forever post on our group page later in regret. Right? Why did I ask her this? No, she's around if you guys have any questions. All right. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing your vision and your passion for all of this. I appreciate you so much. You can yell at me like that every day, please. No, she's totally like full speed ahead passionate, and I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thumbs up if it was good.
Yeah. It was awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you, guys. Thank you for calling in tonight. And we'll see you on the team call. All y'all. Y'all gonna be on the team call, right? On Sunday. All right.